The supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei, recently spoke out about the bizarre U.S. offer to help Iran in its fight against the coronavirus epidemic. He pointed out that it is very, very strange that the Trump administration would be offering some form of unspecified help when it is blockading medical supplies and equipment from reaching Iran, thereby making this medical crisis vastly worse. If the U.S. wanted to help, all it would have to do would be to suspend its sanctions and allow medical equipment and supplies to reach Iran. But the U.S. has said nothing about doing anything like that. It simply makes vague noises about offers to help. So the supreme leader suggested that nobody in their right mind at this point would want help from the United States, given its obvious bad faith, given the fact that more and more evidence suggests that this COVID-19 was made in a lab, an American lab, and released as a biological warfare attack against China and Iran. The evidence for this is circumstantial, of course, including the drills that preceded this. In October, just as the military games were starting, the U.S. was holding a pandemic simulation, and the Chinese government has increasingly been forthright in stating that it knows that it was victimized by a biological warfare attack from the United States. Foreign Minister Wang Yi at the Munich Security Conference a month or so ago made this clear, that they see the U.S. now as an enemy, as a threat, a direct threat to China for the first time since Deng Xiaoping reformed China's economy. And likewise, Zhao Linjian, who is with the Chinese Foreign Ministry, tweeted that it might have been the U.S. Army that brought the epidemic to Wuhan. And many other similar statements have made it absolutely clear that the Chinese government now views this as a U.S. biowarfare attack. And this is completely blacked out from the U.S. mainstream media, but it's critically important. And so the supreme leader of Iran likewise has pointed out that the American intelligence services have been collecting genetic material from Iranians, just as they were caught collecting genetic material from Chinese and from Russians. So all of this obviously underlines the critical importance of the world banning all forms of research on biological weapons, starting with the U.S. bioweapons programs, which are not only headquartered here in the United States at places like Battelle Memorial Laboratories in Ohio, Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, and of course the center in Virginia. But the Americans also have biowar labs scattered around the world in places like Tbilisi, Georgia, where horrible releases, accidental releases apparently from that germ warfare lab, have caused havoc with the population in Georgia. And they're trying to get that shut down, and they have been for years. So the supreme leader of Iran basically recognizes that Iran is under attack, as is China. And it looks like maybe the crazy neoconservative wing of the American military power structure that released this virus didn't understand that, like all bioweapons, there's a potential for blowback, especially with fast mutating viruses. And now in what may be poetic justice, or as the Quran says, they plot and Allah plots, and Allah is the best of plotters. This has rebounded and is now hurting the United States and its allies even worse than its enemies. So that's the situation we're in. And it's really it's not the United States versus the world. This is a struggle of good and evil. And there are good people here in the United States and elsewhere in the West, but they need to get up and stand up and fight for what's right and try to reestablish a sane leadership here in the West. And once that's done, then maybe the U.S. and Iran can work together to fight this virus and to work to make things better for all of humanity. It's complete chaos. Yeah, the leadership in the United States has just, it's become completely unimaginable, how bad our leadership is. And of course, Trump symbolizes that perfectly. The neoconservatives are absolutely crazy. They like war. They think that man's nobility is a product of being in a life and death struggle in wartime. So they think that people should not be allowed to be happy and relaxed and peaceful because then they become lazy and materialistic. So the neoconservatives actually think that war is good. And these people have taken over here in the United States. Yeah, Trump is trying to suspend the Constitution now, which is not so good for people like me who are trying to use free speech to make changes. So yeah, that's the latest big news story here is that Trump and Barr want to suspend the American Constitution.